All right. So thanks everyone for being here. And we have a small agenda. However, since there's a round table on it, it could expand as questions come up and people want to talk about different things. First of all, we'll just talk about the window inserts project that we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. Actually, we've been working on it, all summer. The window inserts, if you're not familiar with them, or are you, Shane, familiar with the window insert project?
I am not.
Okay, so basically it's window inserts that are made for the inside of a home with a wooden frame and plastic stretched over both sides. And then people can just tuck this into their window because there's foam around it to hold it in snugly. And hooks or any kind of hardware is needed. Then they're easy to take out in the spring. And because they give two spaces enclosed in front of your window, you get a lot of insulation benefit from those big inserts. And it started in a nonprofit in Maine and came to Vermont eventually after many towns did it in Maine. And then Vermont towns picked it up and it's becoming popular here. This is the third year it's happened in Vermont. And Bristol did it a year and a half ago, and we did it again this year along with New Haven and Lincoln. And one of the great things about it is that people can sign up to have their windows measured really precisely so that then they get these custom windows built for them, and they help build them, which helps keep the costs low. And also there's a lot of grant writing done by the nonprofit group called Window Dressers, and they find enough money to help anyone who can't afford them. So basically anyone who needs them can end up getting window inserts, which is really great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great program. And we spent about a week, a week and a half ago, building them in Bristol in Holly Hall. And then just before that, a few people went to Charlotte and learned how to build them from the Charlotte folks. And then after our build, Burlington started their build and they needed some help. So a few of us went up there and helped them. So it's that kind of thing where towns are helping each other do this, because it takes a lot of organization and work and learning the process of doing all the different stations that are involved in assembling the windows.
That's great. And I imagine there's some precision to it as well that's needed. So there's some education there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Richard, were you going to just jump in?
Yeah, Sean, I think one of the things that probably would be good for you to know is that there are energy committees all around the state, and a lot of them are doing various kinds of things, weatherization, education programs around heat pumps and things like that. And it's pretty interesting. I was contacted by the Bradford Energy Committee. Bradford's over on the Connecticut River. And they wanted to know about our Bristol Solar Energy Project. And so we put together a little Zoom meeting, and Ben Marks, the CEO of Acorn, and I talked to them about it and about state policy and things like that. But it's kind of typical of energy committees communicating, helping each other out, learning from each other. I think it's fairly unique to Vermont, and it's really a neat thing.
Yeah, that's great. Sharing local knowledge, sort of across town lines.
Yeah,
across committee lines. I love that.
We might snowball each other, but we cooperate too. So
yeah.
Yeah, and this year the window dressers build in Bristol teamed up with New Haven and Lincoln because it's sometimes hard to get enough people on board.
Mm.
Let's see. We ended up doing about 180 windows, I think.
Well, that's
Maybe I
fantastic.
said all the already. Yeah, it was quite
Yeah.
a lot of windows. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's preventing a
And-
lot of heat loss.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Carl was there on the first build a year and a half ago, and Richard was there. Yeah, it's really fun to come together with neighbors maybe you've never met before and work on things like that and figure out how to do it well together if you're working on a project right together.
Yeah, it was neat to have a hands-on project and starting this year because it was enjoyable. It was a nice kind of barn raising social kind of event going on.
I think especially following isolation from COVID, that sounds like a nice way to bring folks together in a safe way.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely wore our masks, and we didn't do lunch there. We originally had lunch and all sat around a table, a couple years ago, but we just gave out little vouchers for people to go buy food and eat it somewhere else, so does anyone have any questions about the window dressers build or the wrap up?
What was the average cost of the windows for a person?
I don't know. We had the mix in there of some windows for Beeman Academy, the school, and those
Yeah.
were very large windows. I'm sure they were much more expensive. I really didn't see the numbers, but I'm thinking low 40s was an average, but I'm not sure.
Mm.
It might have been, if we had the Beeman in there, it's definitely going to be more than that for the average.
Yeah, the window dressers in Maine, and I think, is there another production facility now in New Hampshire? Anyway, at the production facility, they've set up with all kinds of digital equipment. We send the message, the measurements, and the stuff comes, and all we have to do is glue and screw the wood together and stretch the plastic and put on the foam. I mean, that isn't all we have to do. That can be quite taxing, particularly, I think, stretching the plastic, but the fit is fantastic.
You want to move on to the Bristol Community Solar construction update? All right.
Sure.
Do you want to talk about Richard, or do you want me to start, or what do you want to
I
do?
can talk about that and the celebration maybe that we're planning. So the project is coming along really well, even though the weather has not cooperated. There's a problem when you're working on a capped landfill that wet conditions can prohibit you from actually going on the cap because you don't want to penetrate it. Plus the fact I learned that the skid steers that are used on the cap actually had to be taken somewhere and weighed and certified so that they didn't exert more than, what was it, 7 or 11 pounds per square inch
I can't remember.
on the cap. And so it's a little bit of a tricky business, and weather can slow you down, but they are thinking by the end of this week, all the panels will be mounted on the racking. The cement has been poured in the ballast. And so the construction is done. And now what they have to do is run above ground conduit, connect everything up, get it to the inverters, and then up to the Green Mountain power lines. They're satisfied with their progress so far. And we're looking at commissioning in mid to late December. And then we just decided this morning that on January 8th at Holly Hall, there's going to be a bash, which we're going to fly drones and all kinds of things. Ian Albinson, who's on the select board, is a graphic designer and he has a high-end drone. And he's going to patch together kind of the construction photos that we've been taking, plus a flyover as an intro piece that'll be projected. And then we're going to have some speakers. I actually had an occasion to today to ask if Bernie might be interested in coming. He's very interested in alternative energy and in community solar. And so I was in contact with one of his aides on something else. And I just said, hey, Haley, do you think Bernie might be available on Saturday, January 8th to come help us celebrate? So we'll see what happens. We're going to try to get, we certainly our representatives in the state legislature, maybe Governor Scott, if he wants to come, and celebrate this thing. And then we'll all reap the rewards. That's pretty much it, I think, Sally, from my
Okay.
standpoint.
All right, thank you. Yeah, one of
Great
the
project. That's
things about this community solar project is, go ahead, John, if you want.
oh no, I just complimenting. We're so on schedule. You know, it was a 5-year layover before you could install solar panels, and we're right there at the mark. I think this is the 5th year.
Yeah, this has been no more than 2 years, I think, hasn't it?
I was actually looking it up earlier today. I pulled out last year's calendar and found that I first reached out to Acorn on I think it was January 28th, or we actually walked together on that land on January 28th, 2020. So,
Only a year?
well, let's see, maybe it was not, maybe it was 19, but it's not going to be, no, I think it's 20, because it's going to be, you know, a whole year, it'll be 2 years minus a month.
Yeah.
So it'll be a year and 11 months.
Yeah, that's really quick.
Yeah.
The amount of regulatory stuff that had to be done is one of the things that has provided headwinds to some of these projects. And the manager of the project, the construction manager, told me on, what was that, Thursday when we met down there, kind of before people arrived, he said that installers are having a terrible time putting community solar or any solar up in Vermont because of the policies right now are really working against it. And that's partly because Green Mountain Power has a grip on the regulatory agencies, and they really want to install big economy of scale projects. Nick also said that the state of Maine has figured it out, and most of the installers are in Maine right now installing this stuff. And so we have a lot of work to do with the legislature. The Climate Council that's going to be submitting its report to the legislature on December 1st. Many of us who are working on this figure now it's too late to affect the Climate Council. There's some very strong points in the report regarding things like transportation, but in terms of electrification, it's pretty weak. And so we're going to have to work on the legislature to affect change in a variety of ways. And we don't need to go into that tonight, but I just say keep your keep your ears tuned. A really good thing to do would be for anybody to sign up to receive updates from VPIRG. We're all part of a coalition. VPIRG is one of the leading forces in the coalition, Vermont Public Interest Research Group. And they put out alerts and calls for action by clicking and signing or more than that. And so we're going to need to work hard to make it easier to for towns and small organizations to put up these solar facilities. I think in part because we know that the big facilities receive a lot of blowback from the community often. And so local facilitated, local owned often has much better ownership and much more buy-in. And so if the state just gets out of the way, we can do this electrification stuff, sustainability stuff. A huge amount of Vermont's electrical power comes from Hydro-Quebec and from nuclear power, and some natural gas. And so there's a problem with that in terms of the International Joint Commission and their regulations. So a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and another one of the problems with that is that to buy that energy from those different sources of electricity, our money goes out of the state. Whereas if we collect our energy from the sun in our state, we keep the money in Vermont.
Right.
And I think that's really important. We're exporting too much money for energy.
Richard, do you know?
If we're going to electrify cars and homes, we need a lot more sustainable energy.
Yeah.
Richard, do you know what the current percentage
Locally
mix
based.
is?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Richard, do you know what the current percent mix is, nuclear and hydro?
Yeah, if I can get over to something, I think I can. Yeah, let me email that to you. I don't want to lose
Sure. Yeah.
brains here, but yeah, I can get that to you.
Okay. Thank you.
You can also go to the Energy Action Network, EAN, and that's where some good figures are, including some really good graphs about what our carbon mix is. Obviously, transportation and thermal are our biggest carbon emitters by almost 80%. Electricity is very small in terms of its greenhouse gas emission as currently calculated. But what they're not calculating is things like in Hydro-Quebec, there's a great deal of methane that's released as the water moves up and down, as levels change, because they impounded so much vegetation that's all rotting. And they say for the first 10 years of any hydro project, that methane is emitted pretty strongly. And in the boundary line between high water and low water, that continues. That's just one factor.
Thanks for reiterating
As
that,
well as
Richard. That's
the,
go ahead, John.
I'm sorry, losing the sequestration of all those forests.
Yep. Oh, it's interesting. The amount of land that was impounded by Hydro-Quebec is equal to the land in the state of Vermont.
Exactly. Yes.
And then there's a whole indigenous rights thing because they were displaced.
It's like, what would it be like if you flooded Vermont? It's like if you flooded Vermont and let all the trees just rot and create methane just so you could sell power to someone down the road. It's crazy.
The voters in the state of Maine approved a referendum denying the state of Maine continuing to allow Hydro-Quebec to build a transmission line through the state of Maine to deliver power to Massachusetts. It's a $10 billion project that the state of Maine just said, you're not going to come through our state. That's remarkable. And
That's great.
Yeah, Maine.
they'll build. I think Maine Sierra Club deserves a hat tip.
So if we don't have anything more on Bristol Community Solar, we can move on to roundtable, which it kind of seems like we already have, but is there anything more on the community solar project that we want to talk about?
I guess I have a high level question for a family like us where we're starting to think about solar on our roofs, and just for like a family like us, our house has good solar exposure. Is it, from sort of Bristol Community Solar perspective, is it more beneficial for us to sort of invest in the community solar project, or is it more beneficial for the town for us to sort of do our own private solar?
Well, the one thing is the Bristol Community Solar is all subscribed. And so
Okay, well, there you go.
there isn't an opportunity. So it's going to be better to do your own.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, look around, get some prices, and it's not as advantageous as we invested in solar about 8 years ago on our house with 10 panels. And since then we've added heat pumps and heat pump hot water heaters, and our electric bill just went up. And as a result, we invested for 10 more panels. And at the time I was going to buy 10 panels from a local provider, and they quoted me a price. They were really pushing hard of $1,000 a panel. Community solar is $700 a panel. And when we invested in the original panels, the payout was going to be about 8 years before we essentially got our money back and started free electricity. Now, because the Public Utilities Commission and Green Mountain Power have eliminated the net zero, what they call the solar adders, it was 6 cents a kilowatt hour when we started, that was added to the electricity cost that we sold back. By January 1st, it's going to be zero. And so that makes some difference. So you will save money on the long run.
Yeah.
And but I think the real reason has to be that you care about the environment, about the kids' future.
Completely. And I mean, that's the driving force for us. And I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing the boat on this amazing community project. But it's fantastic to hear it's fully subscribed.
Great.
Sounds like we need more panels.
Yeah, we're going to get them. I can't wait till they flip the switch.
Yeah. And Shane, look around. There are local people who are doing it right in Bristol and nearby. So check them out, see where they're at, if they have, a long wait list, or whether they're ready, or, check their prices out, stuff like that. Yeah.
Great.
One thing that we didn't do, we installed our panels, and then about 7 years into it, we had to replace our roof.
Okay. Yeah. Knocking on wood. Hopefully we don't have to do that for a while. The roof is like relatively new, but never say never.
One more thing is, I was on a webinar some months ago. Extinction Rebellion put it on, and there was someone on it who was speaking about his experience putting on his own solar panels. They have kits, and it costs about half as much to put on your own. So he went for it, and I don't know how hard it is. He said it was not so hard, but depends on what you want to do with your
Yeah,
time.
yeah. The DIY approach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good rec.
I think if I did that, I'd get a charge out of it. That's kind of.
Yeah. He,
Yeah.
he said it was completely safe to install them.
The inverter didn't fight back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, did you want to bring up your things that you wrote me earlier about roundtable discussion, like the
Well,
decision made
I
at
would like
the
to,
COP26? Whatever you want.
yes,
Go for it.
I would like to talk about COP26, but it's an open discussion. If anyone else has followed the Glasgow COP26, please chime in. It is now the 26th meeting of what will determine the fate of our children's future. And one would say, will they ever get it together? It's interesting to note that the United Nations hosted a smallpox convention back in the 60s, I think. They had 40 meetings, 40 years before they actually had an agreement among all the countries that they would eliminate smallpox. Up to that point, some 300 million people had died of smallpox, but it took some 40 years for the United Nations family to agree to essentially a smallpox treaty. So I don't know how else to say it, but if we're banking on the United Nations and these governments, we might be in COP 56, not 26, before we really see. And I think what is the problem with it is that all nations have their change of government as we do, and the new regime coming in may have a totally different view on it all. So can be troublemakers and just roadblocks against real progress through the COP process. There's a lot of good press about the Paris Climate Accord, which set down not so much rules, but guidelines for the nations to cooperate in reducing emissions so that we could hold global temperature increase to about 1.5 degrees. And all the countries have submitted plans what they would do and how achieving those plans would actually slow down the warming and kind of keep us from going above the 1.5 degree centigrade increase. As people have looked at those plans, they say it's not going to meet 1.5. It'll be lucky to meet 2.5. So it's words on paper that were almost entirely dependent, and I really don't see much value in the COP process any longer, except maybe it causes people to keep the issue alive. But the progress is, well, it's like watching paint dry. But there was one thing, though, that may, we can always say, breathe some optimism into what they did for those 10 days. They agreed to something called the Glasgow Climate Pact, and it was an unprecedented and lengthy and wide-ranging political decision towards a more ambitious climate response. It requests that companies revisit and strengthen their climate pledges by the end of 2022. It calls for a phase down coal and sets up processes towards delivering a global goal on adaptation. That phase down of coal, the majority wanted a phase out of coal India said, no, we will only go with a phase down. And that's emblematic of where the COP process just continues to undercut any real progress. But nonetheless, this effort to tighten up these pledges that the countries have made in response to the Paris Climate Accord will possibly put some teeth into something that the United Nations can begin to require that these states that have made improvements in their pledges actually carry them out. But I don't know, we're banking on a three-legged horse here, I'm afraid. Does anyone have any comments on what you heard regarding the Glasgow?
I'm going to send out to the committee, and Sean, if you're interested, you can give us your email address.
Yeah, I'd love that.
I agree with John, but I did receive from a friend an article in Policy magazine in which one of the participants said, we can be very disappointed. And essentially, I'm not even paraphrasing, I'm sort of characterizing. We can moan and groan at this point, or we can take what we've got, which is the drawdown rather than the phase out, and at least get started. And I guess, I range between total pessimism that our species is not going to survive the century, and I'm not joking, and some hope that we'll pull it together enough that people will be able to adapt to the changes that are going to happen. And this article in Policy, it's only about a page and a half long. It really kind of helps you navigate forward a little bit with a little bit less pessimism. So I'll attach that. And Carl, I sent you that article just now, that piece from Energy Action Network just now.
Thanks, Richard. That sounds great. And
Yeah.
thank you, Shane, for putting your email in there. I've written that
Yeah,
down.
I put it in the chat.
Good.
Thank you.
We got you now.
Perfect. I agree with a lot, like I don't know, everything I'm reading from people who are following it way closer than me are saying how it's not enough, but I do think like anything incremental, especially I thought it was nice that there was just some, timed deadline for Biden to announce the sort of climate framework for Build Back Better. Like if COP26 hadn't existed, he probably, there was a big news cycle pre-COP26 where he essentially laid out spending on Build Back Better for climate. And I think just any global frameworks that can help nudge politicians to lay out their plans like that does something. And now, it's really, a lot of Build Back Better has gotten reduced, but that sort of climate framework seems to be still really staying strong, which means that there's a lot of people in government advocating for the budget for that.
Yeah, we gotta have some hope.
Yeah. Remember, Richard, a few years ago, the book Drawdown came out by
Yeah.
Paul Hawken, and we were really excited about looking at 100 ways to move toward more sustainable planet. And now Paul Hawken came out with another book called Regeneration, Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation. Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation.
We better get that.
Yeah, I just ordered it.
What
Other
is it
friends
called?
are on.
What is
It's
it?
called Regeneration,
Okay.
Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation. That'll help your kids, Shane.
Yeah. We we're feeling the effects now. So also us.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what's interesting about the drawdown, and apparently this new one, is Hawkins is one of the principals in the high-end gardening and tool catalog, Smith and Hawken.
Oh, wow.
So this isn't a wild-eyed hippie liberal. This is a business person who's I assume is viewing it from a realistic standpoint. And drawdown is terrific. Actually, I put a copy in the library. We had a shelf. I don't know if we still do. But anyway, drawdown is there if you want to take a look at it. It generally is 1 page per thing, 100 pragmatic
Action.
ideas. And, everything from educate girls to let your cows graze in the woods, and the usual stuff, sequester carbon and, bioelectric vehicles, but a whole lot of things that can be done.
Yeah, one of the number 3 was something like upgrade refrigeration.
Yes.
We lose so much energy in refrigeration. Any places that are supermarkets or whatever, there's so much refrigeration, and takes so much energy to keep those things going. Yeah, and the thing about the new Paul Hawken book is it's more stories of what's been going well and what things are happening. So it's going to be more positive, not like things that aren't being done, and just ideas that could be done, but things that are actually being done and sharing of those stories. And it's I haven't read it or looked at it. I'm going to pick it up this week, but
That's great. I need
sounds
that.
like it'll be, yeah.
I just
I
finished
think they have
Falter,
them all.
and I need
really.
an upbeat one now.
That's
Perfect.
great, Shane. I have not been able to open up Falter since I bought it about a year ago.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
know that it's going to crush me.
It's fine. I think this is the audience that already knows everything in the book. So I don't know if there'd be new nuggets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll drop that one off at the library and then read Regeneration.
I don't know if you guys have talked about this in previous meetings, but I'm also really interested in just like the ways to sort of make the local food movement more modular. Just coming from Brooklyn briefly and living in Burlington, we have the best local food here, but it's been interesting to see ways to sort of make that movement work in other towns and other places. So that's been, part of, it's not totally related to energy, but in a lot of ways it is.
It is.
Yeah,
It is very related to energy. I
Yeah.
agree with you. Who's doing a lot? The Acorn, now not Acorn Energy Co-op, but Acorn as in Addison County Relocalization Network. And Lindsay is, I guess, kind of running that these days. And she is really doing some great work with a food, what is it now? They're talking about a food hub or a food, like some kind of statewide, bring this local food thing together and share this food around. And she spoke at something recently, and I can't remember. If I can get some information to you, I will, about
that's great.
Yeah.
Bristol does it so well. I mean, we're part of CSAs here, et cetera, but not many places do. And it's interesting to think about how to sort of spread this model in some way.
Yeah.
It's acornvermont.org.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I assume you go to the co-op in Middlebury.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of local stuff there.
Oh yeah, we love it.
It also ticks us off because all the pasta for a long time came from Italy, which made no sense to me at all.
Yeah, they have some local grains now, or more local
Yeah.
grains and pasta, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And lots of local beer.
Yes, of course. Of course. Um, but yeah, we Lewis Creek Farm is our CSA.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Also, I think it would be great to help people learn how to grow in their own yards, and instead of mowing patches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've grown a lot of food here. I'm still eating so much food from my garden right now. I must have at least 80 or 90 carrots still in the ground, and parsnips, and it's amazing how much you really can grow on land. And everyone's getting rid of their leaves, but actually the leaves are what are enriching my garden anyway. You put the leaves on, they break down, the worms eat them and create a more supple soil and rich soil. It's amazing what we can do right here with our yards.
Sally,
Sally, I would love to.
Do you bury the leaves, or you just?
Okay, so there's a few different ways. One is you can collect your leaves and put them all in a pile and let them sort of rot down, and then bring those kind of rotted leaves onto your garden, and then use them as mulch. Maybe put a little straw over them to hold them down, and then plant whatever you're planting in between. Another is you can just put the leaves directly on the garden and cover it over for the winter, then pull it apart a little bit. Another is you could just bag them up and then poke some put a little bit of water in there, poke some holes, and let them sit over the winter, and they kind of breaks down into what they call leaf mold, but it's not doesn't look like mold. It just becomes starts getting a little crumbly and stuff. We have someone arriving.
Thank you.
And you can look it up, leaf mold or something like that, but you can also chop them up with a lawnmower and use them as mulch in your garden.
Yeah.
And some people don't like to put their leaves in their garden. Another thing is to just definitely put the leaves in with your compost, like your food scraps.
Yeah.
Your food scraps will break down so much faster with leaves, at least as much leaf matter as food matter.
That's great.
Welcome to Sarah. I don't know who you are, but welcome to the meeting. If you have any questions or want to pipe up, please do. We're just kind of round tabling it at this point, talking about different things, different questions people have, or different things they want to talk about.
Could I
Can
read the top 10 drawdown methods?
Sure.
It's interesting.
And this is to draw down greenhouse gases, right?
Right. To draw down or eliminate, making them. Number 1 is refrigeration. Number 2 is wind turbines offshore. And that's a big issue right now, as you probably know, and there's a lot of research going on. They are looking into and actually experimenting with wind turbines floating on the ocean surface 40 to 50 miles out to sea. So you're not going to have, and actually the Norwegians are already doing it. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, reduce food waste. So Sean, that's kind of in the same thing that you're talking about. Plant-rich diet is number 4. Number 5 is protect tropical forest. Number 6 is educating girls. Number 7 is family planning. Number 8 is solar farms. Yay. Number 9 is silvopasture. And number 10 is rooftop solar. This is, out of 100.
That's great. And the educating girls has a lot to do with, just giving them a chance to be educated and do something different than just raise kids. Is that the basic idea?
Yeah, and studies have shown that worldwide, if you can educate girls, the number of kids they have goes down, and it's a method of population control as well. And their economic status is much, much better, obviously. It's, you know, it's a real win-win.
Yeah, thanks for reading those. That was a good reminder of those, some of those great ideas. John, you were mentioning in your email about the Maine offshore wind, weren't you?
Yes, yes. A preface to that, you know, Green Mountain Power does a periodic inventory of their resources, and it's pretty much required by the Vermont Public Utility Commission. Okay, and in the 2018 report, in that, Green Mountain Power said they are looking to offshore wind in the mid-20s because they run into some problems that may cost Green Mountain Power some money vis-a-vis their renewable energy credits. And I contacted Green Mountain Power.
Observation. It is a big problem.
And they said, yes, we are looking into that. Well, I didn't get any more information from them about where they're actually looking, but when I started reading about the efforts by Vineyard Wind in Massachusetts, they've pretty much locked up most of the sites that the U.S. Department of Interior has sort of accepted applications for a block of ocean water. So I started looking also at New Hampshire and Maine, and came upon what I think Richard was describing, this $200 million effort to prove that you can operate a almost a 15 megawatt wind tower 40 miles off the coast, floating on concrete floating devices. Literally, they're using concrete, which evidently will, because there's enough air trapped in the concrete mix, that it becomes buoyant. And the darn wind tower and all of the accoutrements that go with it are literally attached to the ocean by mooring lines. So that's truly an exciting prospect, because Vermont could negotiate with Maine and New Hampshire as well to buy into this prospect, which will come online in 2023. And it's, I can say that the Public Utility Commission denied a 0.5 megawatt solar farm permit in Manchester, Vermont, for aesthetic reasons. That 0.5 megawatt was going to occupy about 35 acres. And you're looking at a single wind tower 40 miles out into the ocean. 14 megawatts. That would be, well, 28 times larger than that solar field. Almost 800,000 acres would be 14 megawatts. So the future has to be for Vermont, offshore wind. There really isn't any hydro potential worth mentioning. That will find public opposition. Solar, like I just described, for aesthetic reasons, public opposition. and wind towers up on the ridges, it just doesn't make sense. The difficulty in getting the parts up there and assembled and maintained, etc. It's a total waste. So I am continuing to sort of suss out how Vermont could, in fact, get in line, even to the point where it could apply for a permit to install, using the same company in Maine that's going to put in those wind towers. Vermont would have its own wind tower field out in the ocean off the Maine coast. With public-private partnerships, we're talking about a huge potential for the state of Maine. I'm sorry, for the state of Vermont to utilize Maine's real estate as a transportation corridor. One can say that though COP26 just delivered more paper and more promises, the fact remains that the private sector is investing tens and hundreds of billions of dollars, even here in the United States, on renewable energy. What we lack is a national grid that would allow power from Nebraska and further out where wind towers are prolific, because farmers are saying, I can make more money with a wind tower than I can with my cows. But we don't have that capacity to ship that surplus electricity into the eastern states. And I'll just end this little monologue by saying that the U.S. Department of Interior has looked at the outside potential for offshore wind from North Carolina up to Maine, and they're looking at something like 170 gigawatts potential. Gigawatts. That's 170 1,000 megawatt plants, essentially. Okay? But one of the problems with that kind of concentration of supply is that there are times when the wind just don't blow up in the North Atlantic, even for days. So you would have that demand, but no supply, and you would have, frankly, chaos. But if you could connect to Nebraska and Oklahoma wind towers, then the wind stops blowing off the coast of Maine, and the wires are carrying the wind from Nebraska. Without that national grid, the future for renewable energy is pretty much going to be dicey. Utilities and the Federal Energy Commission will say we're losing reliability, and we don't have. We run the risk of electric grid chaos unless this is carefully planned and a lot of money spent to rewire this nation's transmission system, which is really almost 100 years old.
Yeah. Well, thanks for describing all that, John. Kind of giving us the update on the latest in that offshore. I really didn't understand much of it at all, so I've got more of a sense.
One of the interesting things about it is the concrete beds are made so that they float just under the surface of the water.
Yeah.
So they're not exposed.
Mm-hmm. And the fishermen in Maine, fought like hell when the state of Maine was talking about the Gulf of Maine. That's the lobster and the fishing industry's habitat. So they said, no, we'll go further out. We'll go 40 miles out. And the fishermen said, well, thank you.
Well,
so, the state
that's great.
overcame opposition just by extending that wire from the towers to the mainland.
Hey, Sarah, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
You've been very quiet.
Yeah, I'm late in coming into the meeting. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're welcome.
It's-
Hey, it's great to see everyone again. I have to go.
I think
but
that-
I look
okay.
forward to seeing you all again at next month's meeting.
Good,
Great. Thank
good.
you,
Look
Carl.
forward to
Good
having you
see
back. And Shane, you ought to consider, if you can stand this group, we'd love to have you.
I will be back next month.
Yeah.
And
Great.
now I'll have some faces in town to recognize.
Yeah, Nick, you know who to run from.
Yeah.
Oh.
Can bug Sally about gardening.
Sarah,
Yeah, that's great.
why did you
I
come
want to
on?
talk about that more.
I've been on one of your meetings before, and yes, and but I couldn't. I had a problem with Zoom and with my video camera, and yes, just got in the game late. But do we always know when the next meeting is going to be?
Yes, it's every third Wednesday of the
Third
month.
Wednesday. Okay.
So
Yeah.
unless some crazy thing comes up about that, but I think only one time that I know of, we didn't have it on the third Wednesday for some reason.
Right.
Sally, in regard to our next meeting, December, third week, perhaps it would be wise to ask Senator Bray to join that meeting and discuss what he has been reading since December 1, the council's report.
Yeah, okay, that's a great idea. Have Chris Bray talk to us about the exactly what
About
was
the
it again?
council, yeah.
About
Well,
the council's plan?
When the council will send on December 1 its report to the governor and the state legislature, i.e. Senator Bray. So he'll have it in hand on December 1. And by third week in the third Wednesday in the month, he'd be ready to talk with us about what he has seen in the report.
That's great.
Yep,
Sounds
that's a
like a
great
really good
idea.
idea.
And we'll have the report by then too.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean,
We can read it, too.
we're in
Yeah.
we're
That'd be
we're in
great.
such an opportune position to affect in any way that council report by talking to our neighbor Senator Bray.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be in the catbird seat.
That's great. Well, I'll have to look at it first too, if we want, and then we can really grill them on things.
We'll put them on the rack.
Excellent,
Yeah.
Good. I have to go as well, Sally, and I really appreciated this meeting. This was a good week. And one time again, congratulations on the effort that you've all done on Windows. It's just really
Oh, yeah.
a credit to you all. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good project. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
This
Well, good
might be
night,
a
all.
good time. Good night, John.
Happy
This might
Thanksgiving
be-
to all of you.
Yeah, you too, John.
Good, sir. All right.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
Richard, is that a cat's tail?
No, it's something that it's some of the, I call them weeds, but the reeds that
Okay.
were out on our front.
Oh, yeah. I was like, it's really not a very active cat. It's been
It's a
the
dead cat,
same
yeah.
position for a long
I'm not a
time.
big cat fan, so I just put their tails in a vase.
Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed tonight's discussion. It's interesting how the last couple meetings we've turned to discussions like this rather than just, okay, this is what we're going to do next month and these are the projects we're working on. It's good to get some more ideas going and hear from people and share. So I appreciate people being willing to kind of go with these roundtables.
Well, it gives us a chance to kind of learn from each other, and also, we've got to stick together and reinforce each other for this work that we've got ahead of us. I don't have many years left, so I got to make the biggest impact I can.
You are really doing a great job, Richard. You are constantly working on this stuff. It's great.
The thing that bothers me most is I'm not going to know whether humanity survives this 20th century. And that really ticks me off. It really does.
You might know in another way. Who knows? You
Yeah,
might
that's-
be tuned into what's going on the earth.
Yeah, I might be
Some way.
fertilizing somewhere and, come up in corn.
You're not dead yet, Richard.
Nope.
That's for sure. Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about, or should we just sign off? What are your thoughts?
I'm ready to go, but
Yeah, that's cool. All right.
It was great meeting all of you.
We don't
Thank
use
you
Yeah,
for-
thanks.
We
Thank you
don't
for this.
use Robert's rules. We use Bob's rules. He was Robert's kind of evil grandson. He wrote his own rules.
Well, I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the warmer weather tomorrow. I think it's supposed to be warm. And then see you around town or see you next month maybe on
Yeah.
this meeting. Great.
That sounds good.
Thanks a lot for being here.
Thanks.
Sure.